southeastern region, obviously left the army after at the breakup of the Civil War to join the Biafran army. And the effect is that the Nigerian army that remained after the Civil War had little or no presence of people of the Southeast. They had to start almost afresh, with the exception of people like General EXCOMMUNICATION, who stood on the other side when the war raged. And there's a whole lot of history that surrounds this. But the point is that there is this feeling of the fact that people of the southeastern extraction have not had their handle on the political leadership of Nigeria. Mm. But you know that this resurgence actually came from 1999 when the Fourth Republic came back. So when the Fourth Republic came back, it was almost like beginning the experiment of democracy after the botched experiment in 1993, which you refer to. Mm. And let me tell you that the experiment of 1993 was not necessarily a vote for the Southwest, as it were. It was a vote for MK Abiola, who appeared to be a very popular candidate beyond the boundaries of his Southwestern origin. But being that he was from the Southwest, the pro-democracy agitation and the protests that followed the nullification of the June 12, 1993 election emanated ostensibly from the West. And because the West, Lagos and its allies held Nigerian media at that time, it was easy to see that the whole agitation moved around Western Nigeria. Eventually, when Senami Abubakar, who took over after Sani Abacha died, wanted to bring back civil rule and democracy in 1999, the military hunters, the military interest, and their people decided that it was the best to bring a Southwesterner who was loyal to the interests of the military. Underline that word. Because it wasn't just any Southwesterner. They wanted somebody who was loyal to the interests of the military to come in order to assuage the feeling of the 1993 election nullification, or kill against the people. And that was what gave rise to the Obasanjo presidency. Because Obasanjo was literally brought out from the prison, dusted up and told to contest. Even when Alex Ekweme was the most prominent person, the rising sun of the civil politics in 1998, who brought up the G8, the G12, the G34 that eventually metamorphosed into the People's Democratic Party, as we had it then. And everybody thought that it was Ekweme's son, or Ekweme's asking to take the presidency. And everyone was hoping that Ekwemes was going to be the president only for the military apologists and the military participants to come together to say it was Obasanjo that we wanted to assuage the 1993 coup against Nigerian people. That a lot of them is history now. The fact that from then, Obasanjo finished his 8-year term, had this crisis with ATIKU Abubakar, who thought he was going to take over from Obasanjo. That never happened. Obasanjo brought in the Umaru Yar'Adua government, Umaru Goodluck Ebele Jonathan ticket, which became the president of Nigeria. And Umaru Yar'Adua came from Katsina, the northwestern Nigeria. Unfortunately, he was lost to the cold hands of death. President Goodluck Jonathan took over the presidency. And after he completed the reign of Umaru Yar'Adua, became contested and won the 2011 election and became the president of the Republic of Nigeria, being from the South region. Then after his first tenure, as it were, he lost the election to President Muhammadu Buhari, who has now done from 2015 to date, is about to finish his 8-year term. And it stood to reason that if the principle of rotation, which speaks to the reintegration policy of post-Civil War Nigeria, was to hold, which principle is probably the basis of the federal character that was embodied in the 1999 Constitution as amended, which Nigeria holds as its ground norm today. If it was anything to go by, that it will mean that ordinarily power will move, having stayed 8 years in the north, power will move to the south. And if you look at the regions in the south, it only would make political sense, reintegration sense, to say that Southwest had 8 years in Obasanjo. And Oshimbajo has been Buhari's vice president, and that's a ticket in the presidency. That Ebele Jonathan, having held his way from the south, that the only region that hasn't come near to being a president since 1999 in the southern region, because if you go to the north, probably people from the northeast and people from the north central would bring up their arguments, which may have their merits. But talking about the southern Nigeria, if you look at the south, southwest, and southeast, it seemed logical to ask to give the same gesture for the purpose of that reintegration, to ask the major political parties to choose their candidates for the southeast. But alas, against the expectation, PDP, which had convention first, deliberately threw the contest open in order to favor the interest of ATIKU. And I said it from the day it was thrown open, that the moment it was thrown open, it was to favor ATIKU, and ATIKU was going to take it by all means. And Dako, we saw the primary and we saw how it went. It was dollarized, and even the national chairman betrayed his emotion by skewing it to favor ATIKU. And he couldn't hide it the day after the primary, when he came out to say that the governor of Sokoto State was the hero of the convention. Whereas, political watchers like us interpreted the action of the governor of Sokoto State as even election rigging, because all the candidates have spoken. The delegates were already being called out before they said he had an announcement to make. And alas, he pulled out from the race and asked his people to support ATIKU. You could see the reaction of Yeso Wike. He said that at that moment, he felt like busting the convention, throwing it into crisis. But he held himself back. When I saw it that night, I said, oh no, that was wrong. Because he had opportunity to have said that during the time he was making speech. But it looked like it was planned that Tambuwal was going to do that. And the following morning, the national chairman, Iyochayo, said that Tambuwal was the hero of the convention. And some of us interpreted it as being in a sentiment of bias. But be that as it may, that passed. And the attention turned to APC. The crescendo was moving very high. All of us thought that it was going to be the responsibility of the APC to now do what the PDP had failed to do. But then, alas, the powers that be, machinated the thing to now allow Tinubu to take the ticket in rather a landslide manner. And it's also history now. So that has brought us to it brought the melancholic feeling up again that, look, the two major political parties, the political elites, are not comfortable to allow the Southeasterner to rise to becoming the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But you know that before then, that P2D had probably read the handwriting on the wall, and said that PDP was very wired to delivering the presidential ticket to ATIKU. And given that Ohaneze, Igbo, and some other interest groups in the Southeast had said that the vice presidential ticket was a no-no for the Southeast, the outcome was that Peter resigned from PDP and joined the Labour Party, where he claims the presidential ticket of the Labour Party. And that to us provided a much needed succor, even if it was only emotional, to the people of the Southeastern region, that there was a man who was actually beginning to gather momentum, and that there's a party that could be described as, picking up the velocity to be a front runner, that is actually positioning a candidate from their region to run for the presidency. That actually assuaged a lot of people's emotional angst and the disappointments they faced from the two major political parties. And that is what has brought us to the place where we are today. And Nigerians are already looking. But the interesting thing is that P2B's aspiration, beyond the expectation, is beginning to metamorphose into a national movement.
Yeah.
Rather than a representation of the Southeastern nation.
True.
Because if you look at the candidates of the two major parties, they are people you could classify as septuagenarians, people who have crossed the Rubicon age of 70. So medical science will predict that senility and the other forms of age-related problems will start cropping up after 70. And none of them is in the real sense less than 75 years. You see the controversy surrounding Tinubu's physical, mental, and emotional health. You see ATIKU trying to show the people that he is not really as old as people think by trying to show himself in a simulated football playing mode. But these are just because people are feeling that these people are over 70 years and they can't continue to circulate this same kind of people. And here we are with a man in his early 60s, or the man who can resonate with the younger generation of Nigerians, and that seems to be what P2B represents. And his philosophy and ideology of politics of managing the resources of the people, politics of the culture of saving and redistributing the resources for the benefit of the people. Those philosophies of not being extravagant, being poised to looking at the real problems that face the people, seem to have pushed him up the radar, faster than anybody thought, even at the consternation of the people on the other side. So some of us have advocated that the supporters of P2B must endeavor to market him as a new Nigerian brand rather than a Southeastern brand. A new Nigerian brand, everybody knows that he's from the Southeast, but it's going to represent a very good woman from the Southeast if the new Nigerian brand comes up to show Nigeria a new way, to reinvent Nigeria, to reset Nigeria into the direction of 21st century countries, at this point in time. So that's where we are now, and we are at the point where the parties were supposed to have by Friday to have submitted the vice presidential nominees to INEC by 6 p.m. last Friday.
Yes.
And that was what led to what we saw, that in a scamper to meet up with that deadline, we saw where APC not being ready, not having sorted out the wrong polls and the reactions from the convention decided to submit a holder nominee, somebody who is loyal to Tinubu, somebody who has been his long-standing friend, somebody who cannot say no to him when probably they want to make substitution. That is why the name of Kabiru Masari, who was the National Welfare Officer of APC, was submitted. So knowing that probably, or believing that probably, if it comes to asking him to now withdraw for another person to come in, there will be no crisis like the crisis you are seeing in Senator, the Senate President's bid to take back his senatorial ticket. Ahmed Lawan, struggling with the man who had the ticket.
Well, that's true.
So there's something looks like what has happened in Labour Party, because Labour Party says it's negotiating very frantically with other political parties to see how they do either a coalition or an association of a kind. So to bring up such coalition that can stand the magnitude of what the two major parties represent, the incumbent and the major opposition party. So in a bid to do that, it seems that negotiation has been very difficult. So in a bid to meet up with the INEC deadline, it looks like Labour Party submitted the name of Dr. Doyin Okupe, who has also been an avowed supporter of Mr. Peter Obi, at least lately, who will be willing to further that interest and will be loyal to the decision probably to substitute later. And that's why you have that name. But it looks like PDP has had a final nomination in
the person of
Dr. OKOWA.
True, and that's where the conversation is this morning. Just take a pause. Well, it's still Omega 101.7 FM, my radio, your radio. My guest has been Dr. Chigozie Anarodo. I hope I pronounced his name correctly this morning. He's
You have tried.
All right. He's a development scientist, an academic, and a public affairs analyst. And we're looking at ATIKU's VP nomination. That's the crux of the matter. We are live on Facebook. We are live on Twitter. We are live on Instagram, YouTube, and YouSocial. The handle is at Omega 101.7 FM. We are live, all right, for your comments, reactions, and contributions. But then back to the subject matter. The Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum has berated the governor of Delta State, Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, for accepting his nomination as vice presidential candidate to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. So let's get into the particular discourse right now. I want to read the letter. The Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum, SMBLF, has berated the governor of Delta State, Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, for accepting his nomination as vice presidential candidate to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the forthcoming 2023 general elections. It is unspeakable and quite disappointing that Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, who is currently chairman of the South Governors Forum and a native of Owa Alero in Ika North East local government area, one of the Igbo-speaking areas of Delta State, would exhibit such barefaced unreliability. It actually bears recalling that 17 governors of the southern states of Nigeria, both of the PDP and the APC, under the chairmanship of the governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu-San, met in Asaba, the capital of Delta State, on May 11, 2021, and took far-reaching decisions, including that based on the principles of fairness, equity, and justice, the presidency should rotate to the south. And at the end of the statutory 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, and this very governor, Okowa, was the host of that historic meeting. The Southern governors later met again in Lagos on July 5, where they reaffirmed their decision, and again in Enugu on September 16, to restate the call that the presidency should rotate to the South in 2023. It is therefore most unfortunate that the governor of Delta State, Senator Ifeanyi Okowa, who should know better, accepted his appointment as a running mate to Alhaji ATIKU Abubakar. We do not have anything personal against Ifeanyi Okowa, but his action is treacherous and tantamount to a despicable pawning of the political future of the people of southern Nigeria. Sadly, it is now common knowledge that he spent resources belonging to the government and people of Delta State to lobby for the position extensively. Well, this was signed by a couple of persons. It's a long read. It was signed by Dr. Edwin Kiagbodo Clark, OFR, CON, leader, SMBLF, Pandef. We also have Chief Ayo Adebanjo, leader of Fenifere. We have Pogu Bitrus, President General, Middle Belt Forum, and Ambassador Professor George Obiozo, President General, Ohaneze Nibo Worldwide. So, sir, back to you, Dr. Chigozie. This is the crux of the matter. He has been considered a traitor. Let's talk about it.
Yes, Dako. You see, politicians are who they are. Politicians. They have one interest, the interest of the politicians. If you think there are any other things, forget it. Now, the South and Middle Belt Forum is not a political party, as it were. It's a pressure group. And the pressure group has been speaking from their position, the way they see things, and most of them are understatements, by the way. They say things the way they think it should be. I mean, the position and thinking of Edwin Clark cannot be him. I mean, he has maintained his position as an outspoken person. Then Ayo Adebanjo is somebody you could praise very highly for standing out. Even when his kinsmen in southwestern Nigeria jumped into the fray to contest for the presidency, he came out clearly to say, look, in as much as this should go to the southern Nigeria this time, that the reasonable thing to do is to allow only people from the southeast to contest. That's for Adebanjo. And I mean, you can drop your hat for him for having the courage to take that position when he could have ordinarily taken the position to say, oh, it's not just the south, it could be southwest, it wouldn't matter. So the SNDF has spoken in consistency with the position of that group ever since the ban on electioneering activities were lifted in this dispensation. Now, the Governors Forum, I want to look at those sides before I come to the middle point. The Governors Forum, the Southern Governors Forum, when they met and made that pronouncement, personally, I came out in the media to criticize Akeredolu because I knew Akeredolu had no genuine intention. Akeredolu spoke because he was pushing the Tinubu agenda from day one. When he was shouting and hitting his hand on the table that it must come back to the south, I called people to be very cautious, to be very watchful. That this shout about coming back to the south did not generally mean that it could come back to the south and equitably move to where it was supposed to be in the south. That he was an unrepentant and acidic supporter of Ahmed Bola Tinubu. And I think some governors on the south saw through that facade, and without supporting anybody's position, you saw Governor of Ebonyi State trying to view him with a pinch of salt. Then, yes, OKOWA hosted that meeting. But like I said, politicians are who they are. Ever since the campaign for the presidency started, for the primary election, the information has been out there that OKOWA never really worked for a southern presidential candidate in PDP. Rather, he secretly was working for the emergence of ATIKU, knowing fully well that he stood the chance of being nominated as a running mate to ATIKU. And that's the allegation out there. and it played out to be to look like it is true. And you would naturally expect that the SNBF will come up with that statement. But the point is that politicians, they know the game. They know that we will say these things, we will make this noise. When they do the things that they know how to do, sharing money, buying people over, turning around a few largesse, being that OKOWA is in a position to control a very massive wealth in the oil-rich Delta state, people will begin to flip over. You see people, even those who have even spoken against this is a ticket or emergency as a running mate, will begin to flip over and begin to sing his support. And so, even in that, if you see one of the signatories to the SNBF letter is the President General of Ohaneze. But if you listen closely, you will hear another person who is claiming to be President General of the Youth Wing. I don't know where an organization has one President General and you have a Youth Wing having a President General. That's an aberration. So I'm concerned because you may have probably a leader of the Youth Wing or whatever. But if you hear somebody who says is the President General of the Youth Wing, rushing to congratulate OKOWA, I begin to say that OKOWA represents the Igbo interest. That's the kind of thing you see politicians do. Before you know it, we'll be singing like a broken pot, a broken gong, without one common position. And the politicians would end up having the way their way, the way they have always done in the past. So having said that, the OKOWA knew what he was doing right from the glow of the whistle. He had his eyes fixated there. If he even find it difficult to justify what others did, because personally, if everybody was rational, if everyone was considerate, I did not expect people like this or Wike to throw all the money, the energies into the race. I probably would have expected them, all of them, to gather their influence, their resources, their energies, and their contracts to say, okay, those of us in the South, having been at the South had the state of presidency, let us now turn and support a candidate from Southeast and push him up, give him all our support. But what did you see? We saw a situation where candidates from the South jumped into the fray and tore the race into pieces. You saw yes a weekend from River bullying everybody, speaking as if he had become a small god of a sort. We saw Emmanuel Odom throwing his hat into the ring, knowing fully well that himself and Wike came from the same region. He threw his hat into the ring, and before he knew it, they tore the race into pieces. There was no way you could have the formidable force from the South again.
Yeah. And
some of us began to think that some of them were breaking the ranks in the South in order to favor ATIKU in the North, because we have always known that the way ATIKU played his politics, that he was going to have his rank closed in the North. The national chairman was an avowed associate of his, EHIU. So from the day the convention held, we knew where it was going. Fintry from his state and some other of his associates were already there working for him in the Northern region. So the people in the South decided to fear the race. Did not read the handwriting in the North. So at the end of the day, it was easy for him to play the game, and he took it. It is now becoming clearer where each of them stood.
Yeah.
Dako, imagine over the weekend that the committee set up by the PDP, 19-man committee set up by the PDP to screen the vice presidential nominees aspirants. It was reported by one of them that the committee met, screened the candidates, and at the stage, they narrowed it down to 3 persons. They had to vote among the members of the committee, And it was reported that 16 members voted for Yusuf Wike. OKOWA had 3 members supporting him. But according to the rule of the game, it is the prerogative of the holder of the presidential ticket to make a nomination.
Yeah, true.
And ATIKU stepped up to the podium and nominated OKOWA. And from the speech made by OKOWA, it didn't look as if OKOWA was surprised. It didn't look as if he was taken in other ways. It was clear that he knew he was going to be nominated. It was clear that he worked for it. And he had discussions with his principal now, as it were.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So you see, politicians work for their narrow interests. Like I said it last time, when it doesn't favor them, they will quickly come down and tell us that we should take up arrows and guns to go and fight because we have been shortchanged, whereas they lost in the game that they played. So my take is that OKOWA played his selfish game and he worked his way to the VP, the running mate position. Okay. And that, I mean, if you want to look at his candidature, that's a different ballgame altogether. If you ask me, given the people who were running for that ticket from the South, I mean, I would find it difficult to fault the choice of OKOWA.
All right.
He presents himself as a gentleman who can show loyalty to his principal, unlike his brother, Governor of Rivers State. I mean, it will be difficult for ATIKU to have chosen Governor of Rivers State because no president or no candidate wants a person who will become a challenger to him. True. You saw what panned out between Obasanjo and ATIKU.
True.
So ATIKU will look out for loyalty. Yeah. And OKOWA has shown himself to be, well, seemingly gentleman. Okay. But some of us, in terms of deliverability, in terms of a potential president in himself, because if somebody becomes a vice president, he's a potential president. He's a president extempore. If the president is not there, or he, like in the case of Yar'Adua, he dies, he becomes the president automatically. True. Now, OKOWA has not, in our estimate, he hasn't done as well as he should do as the governor of Delta State. Given the resources available to Delta State, we have not seen such high-flying performance in his state as the governor to now become very marketable to the general Nigerian populace to say, oh, if you see what OKOWA is bringing to the ticket, he's bringing excellent performance as a sitting governor. All right. To that extent, I'm thinking that I mean, they want to do their politics the way they play politics. Okay. So we totally understand and we support the position of PANDEF, but I must tell you that unfortunately, PANDEF is not a political party. Okay. PANDEF as an organization does not have a vote. PANDEF may even become polarized, just like you are seeing the statement of the Ohaneze, the person who says he's Ohaneze youth president. Okay. Now, before the next 6 months, on February, when the election will happen, you may begin to see that those who spoke in this state in PANDEF may have changed their position. Dako, Nigerians, it's yet to be seen how many Nigerians are steadfast. Almost always, you see people gunning for their selfish interests, the things that will favor them. Before you know it, now people will be promised one thing or the other, and they will begin to sing a new song. All right. So, in as much as OKOWA has its own liabilities, OKOWA may also have an appeal that makes him attracted to the presidential candidate of the PDP. Okay. ATIKU Abubakar.
All right, thank you very much. At this point, we'll go on a quick break so we could accommodate our listener. They've been actually on the phone line trying to reach out. It's been the conversation on the point of view with Dr. Chigozie Anarodo, a development scientist, an academic, and public affairs analyst. So I'll be back in less than 1 minute.
Other parts of the conversation, dial 081 510177.
There'll be a kind of a differences. I agree that in the other political parties and I agree today.
Okay.
So OKOWA take the right decision as he did.
Okay.
Because for me to move on the above their meeting contention, it doesn't mean that they look at the war and see that the Westerners are not trying to prevent the game plan to go into the parties. And therefore, they have been the vice president. They are also as the president. See, they want to correct the game. It's not good. It's not good. So for me, the only I can just say on my own side is that if actually the Southerners should agree together and have a reasonable structure, they can be used to defend any party that coming upon to them because it can be like sort of party and the director and the head and the leader. They can come together and form a structure that Southerners will be obeying them, and that's not the truth.
Okay.
Because what is the game of number as a matter of fact?
All right.
The game of number.
All
So
right.
look at it, we are I don't know what the decision that we take. That's my position.
All right, thank you too. 0815-101-7777. Let's see if we can accommodate 2 more calls. So our guest would weigh into it. Hello? Hello?
No.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, my name is Momo Olichu. I'm calling from Momo One.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. See, based on what they present, your guest was saying here, so what I have to put in that place was this. People man never got one. You understand? Because I serve in the Yoruba nation. So when the argument came up, I told them that Igbo man never caused any problem that will lead or that will put our people in this type of condition we are today. Igbo man can never rule this country. It has been a word you hear every nook and cranny of the whole nation today. You understand? Just let me just tell you this. Just let your guests tell others, tell people around, in 1804, 1805, and that of 1807, that was when Usman Dan Fodio led his jihadist war against the people of the Hausa kingdom. They captured all these people and converted all of them to Muslims. You understand? When they did this, all of them was converted. They ended this particular jihad war to the Yoruba nation. Today, author of Benin can never be a Christian.
All right. So summarize, please.
No, so from here, that was what they wanted to extend to the eastern region. So that was really a reason why the eastern officers and some of the north central, the people, the so-called Nigerian citizens, planned that particular coup to overthrow this sponsors of this terrorist organization, because this is studies that there is not today that it started. So that was what I have to say. It's not our people. That was how it was going. And
thank you very much. You've used up your time. 0815-1017-7777. One more call. And we move on to our guest. This is the last call. Good morning.
Good morning, my humble speaker. It's Pastor Cap from the Reaching from Oyo.
You're welcome, sir.
I must thank Dr. Chigozie for how he started very earlier. If we look at if wherever Sister Franca is now, she will be nodding her head and say, is this why Pastor Cap said he was talking to the white thing in the morning? So, which means he must have conspired with Dako Senami this morning. No conspiracy. The truth remains the truth. When you discover things that very well, as Chigozie said it, and I made mention of that, and I talk about M16, what triggered the coup that I described as a booby trap and the war which I described as a stage. Let me tell our Igbo brothers and sisters, we don't know anything. Most of them say we don't know anything that's going on. The problem started within numbers anyway. And let them know it today that before an Igbo man will have entrance to Asarok, we take the eye of the needle to enter into. Let me say it very clear. What OKOWA did, I think, is a very serious betrayal. There's something I expected, but though I expected such a thing, but if it happens to happen, the people should take my advice very seriously. As a matter of fact, as I'm talking to you, the power that's working on Nigeria is greater than Nigeria. The old, what we call the Niger or Niger Delta or Royal Niger Company, which Britain sees as their own company as well as their own property, to not allow it to go. That's what some of them don't know. And they committed it to these people to go this thing for them. And that's the problem we are having.
All right.
And they say Igbo man is the only one who can detach that. And they don't want it to happen. This what some people don't understand. So Igbo man will remain a threat to Britain, to the Western world. As they say, the only eye that can open the Africa. That's the problem they're fighting them.
All right.
My dear brothers, their problem is the Western world, not even Nigeria, not even Muhammad Buhari.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
And thank you too. I think it's time to get connected with our guest to actually weigh in on some of the observations and contributions that came in this morning. I'm sorry I can't take any of the call. So over to you, sir.
Yes, Dako, thank you. I think you should expand this program to be up to 1.5 hours to accommodate more views from the callers.
No problem, sir.
Having said that, I appreciate those who managed to call in. I want to speak to the views of what seems to be central and the views of the last two callers.
Yeah.
And I want to call our people to jettison this defeatist tendency. There's this impression that has stuck into our head that, that we are second class or that we can never achieve certain things. As a person, I told the former President General for that it was wrong to give impression to a young Nigerian, a young Igbo, that there are things he cannot achieve because he's an Igbo. And I think that it is in the mind, whatever you can think, whatever you can press up to, you can achieve it. You can break the ice, you can break the barriers. Because this idea, maybe one day we'll have opportunity to go down the history and discuss what happened with the Royal Niger Company, the existence of Nigeria, the politics of Western Nigeria, where the Chief Fanika is pulled out from the coalition that would have made Zik the premier of Western Nigeria, and how Zik came back to Eastern Nigeria to displace Eyoita and all the stories that happened. But the point that I'm making is that nobody should actually give up. Nobody should feel defeatist. Nobody should. This victim mentality does not take anybody anywhere. I want to tell people that look, our brothers from the South, as it were, did not hearken to the consensus agreement. Did not hearken to the brotherhood of supporting the people from the Southeast to become the president of Nigeria. Politics is a game of number, like the first caller said, and you need to play around those numbers to see how you get power. So we needed to actually have a bridge between the Southeast and South, and we also need to build a bridge from the South to the North. Maybe we should review the politics of Southeast and begin to see how to build bridge from Southeast to North. Look, I don't want to sound sectional. I have never been. But the truth of the matter is that the experience we have always had with Western Nigeria has always been such that at the dying minutes, the Southeast have always had disappointment. So if we can build a bridge across the Benue and begin to have more political alliance with Northern Nigeria, it may bring better fruit than just crying in our cocoon. Politics, if it is politics, democracy has a negative side of it, like I told you the other time. It's a game of numbers, and even when the foolish majority speak, it is the majority that has spoken. APC has had an election. Once the majority speaks, it is the majority that has spoken, and that's the thing about democracy. So you need to start building your network early enough in the day for you to get to your destiny. So on the ticket of OKOWA, like I told you, politicians know how to break our ranks. OKOWA was picked probably because he is an Ika Igbo. It is ATIKU and PDP will hope that they will make an inroad into some Igbo-speaking areas of the Southeast. They probably wouldn't want to come to the Southeast because they know that the effect of P2B may not allow them to break the block vote that will come from the Southeast, likely to go to Labour Party. But you will still see there are elements. They know our sentiments in the Southeast. They will use carrots to break our rank in the Southeast, and you will see that a good number of people from the Southeast will still go and support the PDP, and some will support the APC. Yet it will come back and begin to cry that we have never been allowed to become the president. Nobody allows you to become a president. You need to work to get what you want. The moment you will break that inferiority complex that they in quotes will not allow us in quotes, we will begin to work for what you get, and we can get to anywhere. The Igbo man is imbued with the capacity to actually achieve anything that he wants to achieve globally without actually having to have any person give it to him. So in summary, I'd like to say that the political landscape is evolving. It is not clear where it's going to be. If the movement catches fire, even the political elites are going to run for cover. So everybody should be upbeat and positive. That look, if we do our biddings, if everyone does the right thing, we can engender a new Nigeria that can take care of everybody's needs. Thank you, Dr. Senami.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Dr. Chigozie, and a development scientist, an academic, and public affairs analyst. Thank you for doing this with me today.
Thank you, Senami.
All right. With that, we come to the end of the program. The Point of View makes a return tomorrow. Basically, or maybe looking to some other critical issues, maybe education. I'm still trying to get my ops together in that regard. Coming up at 10:30. Of course, there's the late Mega Morning Show with Mimi. Good morning.